Have you read a story in the Draoithe Saga and come away with a classic case of immersion after effect? Let me guess, there are questions which remain unanswered even as the magic expanded, adding another layer to the dream. The grand desire to turn the page to discover what happened next ended with the last leaf turned. If you're asking where the remedy for the book Hangover is, you know the answer: read another story. But you aren't ready for the next tale, not yet. The dust needs to settle before you pick up the next volume. So you have found your way here. You aren't alone. Even the author can't get enough. As you hear this, Ophelia Key writes on. But allow me to offer you a possibility, a reflection on the tale you recently finished, and a way to revisit the story to ease the story blues. Welcome to the Draoithe Saga After Party. Warning, spoiler alerts ahead. Turn back now if you wish to read the story blind.
Alright, so get this, we're diving into a world where, get this, ancient magic meets modern-day Texas. Druid Fox, second book in the Kingdom Rising miniseries, part of the larger Draoithe Saga.
Yeah, this saga, it's a really cool blend of urban fantasy and paranormal romance, but with a really unique twist. You've got myths and legends coming to life.
Oh, wow.
In this hidden world where life mates are, well, they're not just soulmates. They're like the key to unlocking some serious magic.
Okay, so we're not talking your typical, boy meets girl scenario here. This life mate concept is really interesting. Like, what makes it so important to this world? Why should we even care?
So in Draoithe, life mates, they're destined to find each other.
Yeah.
And their bond, it brings balance to their individual powers.
Okay.
But not just that, it ignites this potent magic that can influence the entire world. Think of it kind of like a force multiplier. Amplifying their abilities, making them a force to be reckoned with.
So these bonds, they're not just romantic, they're practically a superpower.
Yep.
It's whoa, finding your soulmate just got a whole lot more intense. But where does Druid Fox fit into all of this?
Well, this book throws us right into the heart of Draoithe. We're talking a magical realist version of Tyler, Texas in the year 017X. Now, the magic of the dream, which is this world's life force, is being disrupted by a powerful antagonist named Eater Elliot.
Hold on, magic of the dream. What is that exactly, and why should we be worried about this Elliot character messing with it?
Okay, so the magic of the dream, it's the source of all magic in Draoithe. Flows through everything, connects the supernatural and human worlds, and when it's disrupted, the balance is thrown off. Causes all sorts of chaos. You name it, earthquakes, floods, even magical creatures losing control.
Oh, wow.
And as for Elliot, let's just say his intentions are not good. Not good at all.
Okay, I'm getting some Thanos vibes here. This Elliot guy sounds like trouble. But before we get into that, let's talk about the characters we meet in Druid Fox. The book focuses on Fox, an ancient druid king, right?
Right. Fox, who's also known as Duncan O'Sullivan, he's been alive for over 400 years. Can you imagine the wisdom and power he's accumulated over the centuries? He's fleeing danger with his loyal mate, Archerista Jones Dodier.
Oh, yeah.
Or Artie for short. And they're seeking sanctuary with a powerful alpha werewolf named Luz Mendez.
Ah, so this is where the whole pack element comes into play. What can you tell us about Luke and his pack? They seem pretty central to the story.
Yeah, Luke, he's a young alpha, but don't let that fool you. He's already proving to be a strong leader. He's building this new pack in Tyler, and he sees the value in Fox's knowledge and experience. So their deal is Fox offers protection and guidance, in exchange for safety. But there's more. They aren't the only ones looking for refuge. Isabel, a phoenix, and Javier, a direwolf, also end up joining Luke's pack. And they each bring their own unique abilities and challenges to the table.
Wait, a phoenix?
Yeah.
That's pretty intense. So we've got a druid king, a loyal mate, a pack of werewolves, and a phoenix, and they all end up in Tyler, Texas.
That's right.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, for starters, Fox is running from some serious threats. We find out that Eater Elliot, he's not just disrupting the magic of the dream. He's actually hunting shifters, experimenting on them in some really horrific ways. Isabel, the Phoenix, has a particularly harrowing encounter with him, which gives us a glimpse into how truly cruel he can be.
That's dark. It seems like this whole sense of community within the pack is going to be crucial for facing those threats.
Absolutely. Druid Fox really highlights the power of unity and loyalty. Like, as the characters face danger together, their bonds get deeper. And Luke's pack, it just grows stronger. They find strength in their diversity, with each member contributing their own, unique abilities to the group.
It's like that saying, the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. But what about the magic? How does that play into everything?
Oh, Draoithe is full of different types of magic. Fox, being a druid, he commands like this powerful elemental magic rooted in nature. Then you've got the unique abilities of shifters like werewolves, who have enhanced strength and speed, and the phoenix, who can rise from the ashes. But the most interesting magic comes from the lifemate bonds.
Okay.
These bonds, they ignite a magic that can amplify abilities, even influence the flow of the magic of the dream.
So this lifemate magic, it's like the nuclear option. We already see it with Luke and his mate Eli, but there are hints of a potential bond forming between Javier and Isabel, too.
Right, and that's where things get really interesting. Remember, Isabel is a newly turned shifter, so her bond with Javier, that could have some unpredictable consequences. But Druid Fox also explores, the darker side of magic. Eliot's experiments show us what can happen when power falls into the wrong hands. It raises the question, how do you control something as potent as magic?
That's a great question. And speaking of control, let's talk about the relationship between Fox and Artie. I was really struck by that ancient oath that binds Artie to Fox.
Yeah, their relationship. It's fascinating because it's so entwined with magic and duty. Artie's bound to Fox by this oath of service. And the thing is, this oath, it's magically enforced. It influences her submission to him.
Whoa, that definitely raises some ethical questions. It makes you wonder if Artie's loyalty is truly a choice or if it's being, manipulated by the magic.
Exactly. And to make matters more complicated, Fox himself is struggling with this. He wants Artie's love and devotion to be genuine. Not because of some magical compulsion. He wants her to choose him freely.
Yeah, that internal conflict adds a whole other level to their relationship. It's not just about love and loyalty, it's about free will. The ethical implications of wielding ancient magic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then you have Javier and Isabel. Their connection's just starting to grow, but there are these hints that they might be life mates.
Oh.
And remember, Isabel's a newly turned shifter, so this bond could be incredibly powerful, but also really unpredictable.
It seems like Druid Fox is setting the stage for some seriously complex relationships. But let's not forget about the pack itself. With Luke as Alpha, Javier as Beta, and Fox the head of intelligence, it's a pretty formidable structure.
Oh yeah, Luke's created this really unique pack dynamic. Blends those traditional roles with, practical needs. He understands how important organization and strategy are, especially with all the threats they face. He even has this vision of expanding the pack's influence, like establishing a retreat, a shifter university, even an art gallery for Isabel.
Hold on, an art gallery for a phoenix. Now that's some outside-the-box thinking. It seems like Luke isn't just reacting to threats. He's building a future for his pack.
Exactly, and he even mentions, the possibility of alliances with other shifter packs, suggesting this larger network of support and resources. He sees the big picture, recognizing that strength lies in unity, especially in a world where shifters are being hunted and exploited.
And the story is sprinkled with all these hints and foreshadowing moments that keep you on the edge of your seat.
Oh yeah, Druid Fox is paced so well, it gives us just enough information to keep us intrigued, leaving us to connect the dots. And there's this underlying tension, this sense of unease, Eliot's threat is far from over. We're left wondering, what are his motives? What's he really trying to achieve?
It's like the calm before the storm. You know something big is coming, but you're not sure when or how it's going to hit. This constant tension just adds another layer to the story, making it impossible to put down.
And that's what makes Druid Fox such a captivating read. It's got action, romance, and suspense. All set in this really well-developed world where the lines between the human and supernatural are always blurred.
All right, we've covered a lot, but I'm hooked. This deep dive has definitely piqued my interest. One thing that really struck me about Druid Fox is how the author uses magic as this metaphor for power dynamics in the real world.
That's an interesting point.
Different characters embody different forms of power.
Right. You've got Fox with his ancient druid magic. He kind of represents this old world power, steeped in tradition and knowledge from over centuries. And he's so careful with his magic. almost reluctant to use it,
Yeah.
He understands just how heavy the consequences can be.
Yeah.
Then you have Elliot, who's like, well, he embodies a much more ruthless, kind of predatory form of power.
Yeah, I see that.
Driven by ambition, wanting control, willing to exploit magic just for his own personal gain, no matter what the cost.
It's like they represent two sides of the same coin. Fox, the wise sage, and Elliot, the power-hungry tyrant.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But what I find really compelling is how Luke fits into this whole dynamic. He's young, ambitious, but he also seems to get the importance of balance and responsibility.
Yeah, Luke's leadership style, it's definitely intriguing because it's like this modern collaborative approach to power. He's not afraid to challenge tradition, but he also respects the wisdom of those who came before him, like Fox.
Right.
And he sees the potential for shifters to have, a more equal distribution of power. One that empowers everyone while still fostering unity and cooperation.
Like his idea for a shifter university and all those alliances, it's like he's trying to build a system where power is shared and used to help everyone, not just a few at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings up a big question. Can magic, or any form of power really, be democratized? Can you have power without creating those hierarchies and inequalities? Druid Fox doesn't give us easy answers, but it definitely makes us think about the complexities of power and how to use it responsibly.
Right. And all of those complexities are also reflected in the lifemate bonds, aren't they? They're not just about romantic love. They're also about balancing power, complementing each other's strengths, and creating something bigger than themselves.
The lifemate bonds are interesting. They represent this idea that true power comes from finding your other half.
Right.
The one who completes you and unlocks your full potential. It's a great concept, but it makes you wonder about free will. Can you truly be free if your destiny is so tied to another person?
We see that struggle play out with Fox and Artie. That ancient oath, it adds a layer of coercion that makes you question if Artie is really choosing to be with Fox. It's interesting how Fox wrestles with that. He wants Artie to love him freely, not because she's magically obligated to.
Yeah. And then there's Javier and Isabel, their potential lifemate bond. Well, that just throws another wrench into everything. Yeah. Javier, he's so impulsive, driven by instinct. Isabel is still figuring out her new powers and dealing with the trauma from her past.
Yeah.
If there are lifemates, their bond could be, explosive, both in terms of magic and how they grow as individuals.
Each lifemate bond seems to explore a different side to this power dynamic. With Fox and Artie, it's about tradition and free will. With Javier and Isabel, it's about embracing instinct and finding strength in being vulnerable.
Right.
It makes you wonder what other kinds of lifemate bonds exist out there and how they might challenge how we think about power and connection.
That's what I love about this world. There are so many questions and possibilities. But speaking of challenges, let's talk about how a pack is structured. Luke's idea of a more inclusive and organized pack is great, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, even in a world with supernatural beings, building a community isn't simple. You've got all these personalities, competing priorities, and then the constant threat from the outside world. Luke's pack is like a tiny version of our own society, trying to balance what individuals need with what's good for everyone.
And Luke's leadership is always being tested. He has to deal with what people expect from the traditional pack hierarchy, while also creating a new way of doing things.
Yeah.
One that embraces change and new ideas. His decision to bring Fox into the pack, a powerful druid with his own goals, that's a bold move. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out later on.
Then there's the whole thing about those alliances with other shifter packs. Can Luke stay in control and keep his pack safe while also working with groups that might be rivals? Seems like he's walking a tightrope.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And don't forget about Eater Elliot. He's always out there. We still don't know what he wants. We see how cruel he can be, how obsessed he is with controlling and manipulating shifters.
Yeah.
But what's his ultimate goal? Is it power? Knowledge? Or something even worse?
It's like he represents this deep-seated fear of the unknown, the fear of being hunted and used just because you're different. That connects with a lot of real-world anxieties about prejudice and persecution.
You're right. And Druid Fox doesn't avoid those difficult themes. It forces us to confront the darker parts of humanity, the potential for cruelty and greed that's inside all of us. But it also offers a glimmer of hope. When facing these threats, we see characters like Luke, Fox, and the rest of the pack choosing compassion, unity, and fighting for a better future.
And speaking of hope, I have to mention that scene where Fox talks about how he saved Artie's life centuries ago. It's such a powerful moment. It shows you how deep their bond is. But it also highlights, the ethical gray areas of using ancient magic.
Right. That scene is so important. It sets the stage for their entire relationship. Fox's decision to use his magic to change Artie into a shifter, to bind her to him with that oath. It comes from a place of love and desperation.
Right.
But it also creates this imbalance of power that they're still struggling with all these years later.
It's like, even with the best intentions, you can have unintended consequences, especially when you're dealing with something as powerful as magic.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if true love can even exist when one person has that much power over the other.
Druid Fox doesn't shy away from these hard questions. It makes us confront our own ideas about love, power, and free will. And it does it through these characters who aren't perfect. They're complex, but ultimately you can relate to them, even with all their supernatural abilities.
Okay, let's talk about some of these characters a little more. Starting with Javier. He's such a wild card. He brings so much humor and energy, but he's also so loyal and protective. What do you think about his role in the pack?
Javier, he's the spirit of the wild, impulsive, driven by instinct, and so devoted to his pack. He represents this primal connection to nature, a force that can be both destructive and life-giving.
I see.
His role in the pack is really important. He challenges the more rigid, traditional ways of doing things. He's a reminder to embrace your instincts, to fight for what you believe in, and to find joy, even when things are dangerous.
Sometimes he gets into trouble because he's so impulsive, but it also keeps you guessing what he's going to do next. And his connection with Isabel adds even more mystery. Their romance is cute, but there's also this sense of danger, knowing they might be life mates.
Right. And Isabel herself is such a fascinating character. Powerful and vulnerable, capable of great destruction, but also stunning beauty. Her phoenix powers are like a symbol of rebirth and transformation. Mm-hmm. And her journey mirrors the struggles we all face in finding our place in the world, rising from the ashes of our past.
She's naive, which makes her a target, but it also makes her want to learn and grow. You can't help but root for her as she figures out this new world, makes connections, and discovers how powerful she really is.
Yeah, and then there's Artie. She might not have these big, flashy powers like the others, but she's strong in her own quiet way. Centuries of experience have made her a powerful presence.
Right.
Artie represents resilience, the kind of strength that comes from enduring loss and hardship. She's seen so much change, empires rise and fall, cycles of violence and rebirth. Her power is in her ability to adapt, to learn from the past, and to guide others with a gentle but firm hand.
And she challenges the traditional power dynamics within the pack, Subtly pushing back against Fox's control, but still remaining totally loyal to him.
Yeah, it's interesting. Their relationship is this constant dance,
Yeah.
Balancing those ancient oaths, their magical connection, and the way their love and trust keeps changing. It's a reminder that even the strongest relationships need constant work and have to adapt over time.
All of this makes me think about those ethical dilemmas throughout Druid Fox. Like Fox turning Artie into a shifter without asking her. Yeah, I get why he did it, given the situation.
Right.
But it brings up these questions about choice and the responsibility that comes with power.
It's a classic example of the ends justifying the means. And it's something that haunts Fox throughout the story. He knows he did what he had to do to save Artie, but that choice hangs over them. It creates this imbalance of power that he's still trying to fix.
It's not just Fox who struggles with these dilemmas, though.
Right.
Luke, as the alpha, has to make hard decisions all the time, balancing the needs of his pack with the safety of all shifters.
His vision for a shifter university and alliances with other packs is a good one, but it comes with risks. He's entering unknown territory.
Yeah.
There's a huge chance for conflict, both within his own pack and from the outside world.
It's like he's trying to build this new world order for shifters, one based on everyone working together and sharing resources. But it's hard to change how things have always been done. There will always be people who fight against change, who hold on to their power and traditions, even if it means sacrificing the greater good. And we can't forget about Eater Elliott. He's still a big threat. We don't know his motives, but his actions tell us a lot. He clearly wants control. He's willing to use shifters for his own benefit, no matter the cost.
He represents the darkest parts of us, the fear and prejudice that often lead to violence and oppression. He adds this feeling of urgency to the story, a reminder that the fight for equality and justice never really ends.
It makes you think, what is he ultimately trying to do? Is he just power hungry? Or is there something even more sinister going on? The author leaves us hanging with a lot of unanswered questions, which makes you desperate to read the next book.
Yeah. The author's great at creating suspense, keeping you on the edge of your seat while also exploring these really complex themes of love, loss, and what it means to find your identity in a world that's always changing.
And it's all set against this amazing backdrop, this world where ancient magic meets modern-day Texas.
Right.
It's this unique and compelling blend of the familiar and the fantastical.
The world of Draoithe feels both real and magical. Like anything is possible, but your choices have real consequences.
So we've talked a lot about the blurred lines between the human and the supernatural in Druid Fox, but I'm really fascinated by how the characters' powers seem to make their human emotions stronger, not erase them.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
It's easy to think that if you were immortal or had magical powers, you'd be less human. But Druid Fox suggests the opposite.
Yeah.
These characters experience love, grief, jealousy, even more intensely, because their powers heighten their senses and make their emotions stronger.
Like Fox, for example. His love for Artie is fierce, almost possessive.
Yeah.
And that's partly because he's a druid, because he's lived for so long, and because of the weight of all his responsibilities.
Right. His immortality makes every loss, every threat to the people he cares about, so much more significant. He can't afford to be careless with his love. That's a burden most humans will never understand.
And then you have Javier. His dire wolf instincts make him so protective of his pack. Sometimes it's almost reckless. It's great to see how devoted he is, but you also worry that his impulsiveness could get him into real trouble.
That tension between instinct and reason is at the heart of his character. He's learning to control his wild side, to find that balance between being loyal to the pack and following his own desires.
It's a struggle a lot of us can relate to, even if we can't turn into a dire wolf.
Exactly. And Isabel's journey is just as compelling. Her phoenix powers represent this incredible potential for rebirth and transformation, but she's also incredibly vulnerable, still carrying the scars from what Elliot did to her. Her story reminds us that healing takes time, even for a creature that can rise from the ashes. She's learning to trust again, to embrace her powers, and to find strength in her connections with others, especially Javier. It's a beautiful but fragile process.
And we can't forget about Artie. She might not have flashy powers like the others, but she's quietly strong. Centuries of wisdom make her a force to be reckoned with.
Right. Artie embodies resilience, the kind that comes from facing hardship and loss. She's seen empires rise and fall, witnessed countless cycles of violence and rebirth. Her strength lies in her ability to adapt, learn from the past, and guide others with a gentle but firm hand.
I like how she challenges the typical power structure within the pack, subtly pushing back against Fox's control but staying fiercely loyal to him.
Their relationship is always this back and forth, balancing ancient oaths, their magical bond, and the evolving nature of love and trust. It shows that even the most solid relationships need work and need to change over time.
All of this brings up the ethical questions that run through Druid Fox, like Fox's decision to turn Artie into a shifter without her consent. Yeah, I understand why he did it, given the circumstances. But it raises serious questions about choice and using power responsibly.
It's that classic example of the ends justifying the means. And it's something that haunts Fox throughout the story. He knows he saved Artie, but that choice hangs over their relationship.
Yeah.
It creates this imbalance of power that he's trying to make right.
And it's not just Fox who wrestles with these dilemmas. Luke, as the alpha, is always making tough calls.
Yeah.
Trying to balance what his pack needs with keeping the whole shifter community safe.
His vision for a shifter university and alliances with other packs is noble.
Right.
But it also comes with risks. He's going into uncharted territory. And there's huge potential for conflict, both within his own pack and with outside forces.
It's like he's building this new world order for shifters, one based on cooperation and shared resources. But it's hard to let go of old ways. There are always those who resist change, who cling to power and tradition, even if it means sacrificing the greater good.
And let's not forget about the looming threat of Eater Elliot. His motives are still a mystery, but his actions speak volumes. He's clearly driven by a desire for control, a willingness to exploit shifters for his own gain, no matter the cost.
He represents the darkest impulses of humanity, the fear and prejudice that so often lead to violence and oppression. His presence adds an element of urgency to the story, a reminder that the fight for equality and justice is never truly over.
It makes you wonder, what's his end game? Is he simply power hungry? Or is there a deeper, more sinister agenda at play? The author leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions, which makes the anticipation for the next installment almost unbearable. The author is masterful at weaving together these threads of suspense, keeping us on the edge of our seats while also exploring complex themes of love, loss, and the struggle for identity in a world that's constantly shifting.
And it's all set against this richly imagined backdrop, this world where ancient magic meets modern-day Texas, creating a unique and compelling blend of the familiar and the fantastical.
It's a world that feels both real and magical, a place where anything is possible, but where the consequences of your choices are always significant.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Druid Fox, what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to ponder?
I think Druid Fox challenges us to think about what power really means, not just in a supernatural way, but also in our everyday lives. How do we use the power we have? Do we use it to control others, to take advantage of what we have, or do we try to create a world that's more just and fair?
It's a question we should all ask ourselves, both as individuals and as a society. Druid Fox reminds us that the choices we make, even the small ones, can have big consequences that reach far beyond us.
And in the end, I think it's a story about hope. Hope for a future where magic and humanity can coexist in balance, where power is used for good, and where the bonds of love and loyalty can overcome even the toughest challenges.
So if you're looking for a story that will take you to a world of magic, romance, and adventure, while also making you think about the complexities of power and the choices we make, I highly recommend Druid Fox and the entire Draoithe Saga.
It's a journey you won't forget.
And that concludes our deep dive into Druid Fox. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of Draoithe and the characters who live there.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the magic alive.
You know, we've talked a lot about how the lines between humans and the supernatural are blurred in Druid Fox. But what's really got me thinking is how their powers, they seem to make their human emotions stronger, not get rid of them.
Yeah, it's like you'd think being immortal or having magic would make you less human, but this book kind of suggests the opposite, doesn't it?
Totally.
Like these characters, they feel love, grief, jealousy, even more intensely, because their powers make their senses sharper and their emotions just, well, bigger.
Take Fox, for instance. His love for Artie is so intense, almost possessive. Part of that's got to be because he's a druid, right? Lived so long, carries all that responsibility.
Vicky's immortality makes every loss, every threat to someone he loves just hit him harder.
Yeah.
He can't afford to be careless with his heart, and that's not something most people would ever understand.
And then there's Javier, always ready to jump into action, driven by those direwolf instincts to protect his pack. It's heartwarming to see his loyalty, but at the same time, you kind of worry that his impulsiveness might land him in serious trouble.
It's that constant battle between instinct and reason, you know?
Yeah.
It's a big part of who he is. He's
Yeah.
figuring out how to control his wild side, how to balance being loyal to the pack with what he wants as an individual.
It's a struggle that a lot of us can relate to, even without the whole shape-shifting thing.
Exactly. And then you've got Isabel. Her phoenix powers, they show this incredible ability for rebirth and change.
Right.
But she's also so vulnerable, still dealing with the trauma from what Elliot did to her.
It's a good reminder that healing takes time, even for someone who can literally rise from the ashes. She's learning to trust again, to embrace her powers, to find strength in her connections, especially with Javier.
Yeah, it's a beautiful process, but also really fragile.
And let's not forget Artie. She may not have those big, flashy powers like some of the others, but she's strong in her own way, quietly powerful. All those centuries of wisdom make her a force to be reckoned with.
Artie's all about resilience, the kind that comes from facing hardship and loss. She's seen it all, you know?
Yeah.
Empires crumble, cycles of violence and renewal. Her strength is in adapting, learning from the past, and guiding others with a firm but gentle hand.
And I love how she challenges those traditional power dynamics in the pack, subtly pushing back against Fox's control while staying completely loyal to him.
Their relationship is always in motion, isn't it?
For sure.
They're balancing those old oaths, their magical connection, and how their love and trust keeps changing. It shows us that even the strongest relationships take work and have to adapt over time.
It all brings us back to those ethical dilemmas in Druid Fox, like Fox's decision to turn Artie into a shifter without her consent. I get why he did it, given the situation, but it raises some big questions about choice and using power responsibly.
It's a classic case of the ends justifying the means, and it's something that weighs on Fox throughout the story.
Yeah.
He knows he had to save Artie, but that choice still casts a shadow over their relationship, creates an imbalance he's trying to fix.
It's not just Fox dealing with tough choices, though. Luke, as the alpha, he's always making those difficult calls, trying to balance what his pack needs with the safety of the whole shifter community.
His ideas about a shifter university and alliances with other packs, they're noble.
Right.
But they also come with risks. He's stepping into the unknown. There's always the chance for conflict within his own pack and from the outside.
It's like he's trying to create this new world order for shifters, one where they cooperate and share resources. But changing old habits is tough. There'll always be those who resist, those who hold on to power and tradition, even if it means sacrificing what's good for everyone. And we can't forget about Eater Elliott lurking out there. We still don't know what he's after, but his actions are pretty telling. He's definitely driven by this need for control, this willingness to exploit shifters for his own benefit, no matter the consequences.
He really represents the darkest parts of humanity, doesn't he? The fear, the prejudice that often lead to violence and oppression. His presence adds this urgency to the story, reminds us that the fight for equality and justice never truly ends.
It makes you wonder, what is he ultimately trying to do? Is it just power he wants? Or is there something even more sinister going on? The author leaves us hanging with so many unanswered questions, it's almost painful waiting for the next book.
The author's brilliant at weaving together those threads of suspense, keeping us on the edge of our seats while exploring these complex themes of love, loss, and figuring out who you are in a world that's always changing.
And it all unfolds against this incredible backdrop, this world where ancient magic meets modern-day Texas.
Right, it's this unique blend of the familiar and the fantastical.
Druid Fox creates a world that feels both real and magical, a place where anything seems possible, but the choices you make have real weight.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Druid Fox, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to think about?
I think Druid Fox challenges us to examine what power truly means, not just in this fantastical, supernatural sense, but also in our own lives. How do we use the power we have? Do we use it to control others, to exploit what we've got? Or do we try to create a more just and equitable world?
It's a question worth asking ourselves, both individually and as a society. Druid Fox reminds us that even our smallest choices can have a ripple effect, reaching far beyond ourselves.
And ultimately, I think it's a story about hope. Hope for a future where magic and humanity can coexist in balance, where power is used for good, and where love and loyalty can overcome even the toughest challenges.
So if you're looking for a story that will transport you, a story full of magic, romance, and adventure, but also makes you think about power and the choices we make, I highly recommend checking out Druid Fox and the whole Draoithe Saga.
It's a journey that will stay with you.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Druid Fox. We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of Draoithe and the characters who inhabit it.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the magic alive.
Thank you for your support. For more, visit opheliakey.com. Welcome to the dream. Sincerely, OK.